So kind of a wonky time right now.
Logged in. Oh, let me just do
Huge crowd too. Oh my God. Wow.
Wait, let me just
But choice. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if that's working. The camera. No, there we go. All right. Okay, with that, then I want to welcome everybody to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, November 24th. All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So moving on to my updates, just a few updates. I actually did some slides tonight. To be quick.
Oh, fancy. Wow.
So Jeannie, you want to share my slides?
I created a 100-page slide deck for us to go through later.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just go to the first slide. There we go. Just wanted to highlight the expression of interest process. A reminder, we received 4 proposals. Our board met up on that a few weeks ago. We're actually going to do two special board of selectmen meetings the first week of January. I don't want to give out the details yet. We're just ironing out some of them, the ones with the rooms and the times and all that. That'll be made available to the public. So people are welcome to come and hear the presentations from the 4 different proposals. And, and then after that, our board would convene again, and figure out a decision-making process after that. But that first week of January will be an opportunity, and that will be hybrid meeting. So if you cannot attend in person, you'll be able to watch the videos either remote or see them on the website later after that. So did want to mention too that the town is moving forward with its financing plan. We're issuing another round of bonds and bands are short-term notes, basically 1-year notes that we use knowing that we're going to be issuing some longer-term bonds. And so we will be issuing, I think pricing is expected on December 3rd, 24.6 million of the short-term notes and then 20.6 million of the long-term bonds. GO means general obligation bonds. So they're just committed to the town's obligations. It's not like specific, even though they're project specific, they're backed by the full faith and credit of Madison. And so after this, we would have about $90 million in debt outstanding after the bonds reissue. So, and this is according to the plan that we've had all along. We're expecting to get our rating issued soon. It hasn't formally been announced, but we should be in good shape for that. But that'll be coming out soon. And so that's proceeding really well. And I know Stacy's been working very hard on that. Next slide is also want to highlight the hard work of her department. Once again, they received a certificate of excellence in financial reporting.
Wow.
So great job by the finance department and continuing that spirit of full disclosure, just showing that they work very hard in our annual reports. I think that whole online thing that we put into place ClearGov last year with the online budget book has been really helpful for people to understand kind of, our operating budget. So I want to just congratulate the finance department for the receipt of that award. And then also we also achieved, and I can't remember if I mentioned this, sustainable CT silver status. Aaron and I went to the award ceremony, which just we were what's the lower level? Bronze. We were bronze before. And it is an incredible amount of work that goes into submitting to get these sustainable status. But it's basically trying to capture all the great things we're doing in our town to show that we're trying to achieve different sustainability goals. And I think at one point in the future, maybe we can talk about what those are, how they kind of all pull together. Part of that is also part of like our strategic plan goal. Anyways, it was just a lot of work. And I know that Erin had a intern also working with her, Massimo, who's done a lot of great work on this too. So it was nice to get that second status award. So that's my update. And also just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. So
nice use of the icons there.
Yeah. So In that, we'll move it on to any liaison reports and selectmen comments.
Nothing big.
No liaison report, but reminder for anybody that is participating in Turkey Trot, packet pickups are tomorrow and Wednesday at Lenny and Joe's. And if you want to register, you still can.
Great, it's a great, I know my family signed up this year.
Yes.
We've had a good time doing it, so.
We're always walkers.
Yeah, we're walkers.
5 miles.
It just sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comments or updates?
Just a quick comment. The public session for the Surf Club Master Plan was well attended at Neck River School. We had not quite 100 people, but it was well attended. The next session coming up is the 11th of December at 4:30 to 6 at the Senior Center. Same format, come and go as you please. It's an opportunity to come in, see the different facets of the park and to write down your comments, suggestions, thoughts. All of that will be compiled together. After we do the first 2 public sessions, there'll be some online ways to input your opinions. And then we'll look to pull all that together and begin presenting what the community has said to us early in the next year.
Great, yeah, that was a really good session, actually, and a lot of, a wide demographic too, in terms of different age groups and families were there, and so it was well attended, and I hope to see the same, in December. Any other updates? No? So,
Maybe just one quick thing, just relative to advocacy, which we love, right? Public advocacy. We're getting a lot of letters to our Board of Selectmen email box about one of the options for Academy, which is the Academy, which is the hotel option. So I just think it warrants putting out there that it's impressive that people are gathering and voicing their opinions. So we love hearing that kind of feedback.
it's nice to see positive conversations.
Indeed.
So, an excitement. about something.
Yes.
Any else? No? Good. All right, so we'll move on to citizens' comments.
No one's online raising their hand.
Okay. No one's online. Any comments? No, I'm assuming not. So with that, moving on to the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Moved.
Second. Comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All passes. So today, we have our town clerk here as well as one of our registrars of voters to talk about the recent election. And I thought it was a good opportunity, because this is the first time we had a municipal election where we had early voting. And we had very strong turnout despite, being the first time we didn't have a top of the ticket kind of race for a selectman race. And also just to kind of talk about early voting and how next year we have a much larger election taking place because we'll have statewide offices as well as congressional, how that might impact things and talk a little bit about all the challenges I know you guys have faced with this as well. So, and new voting machines to top it all off, right? So great. So I'll turn it over if you guys want to come up and sit in front or
Sure.
yeah. Well, because that thing kind of zips around, it's probably easier to do in the front row.
Want to join me, Sally?
I'm up next. I will.
This past November, we ended up having more people than we anticipated. We had figured without the Board of Selectmen on that it would be a smaller turnout, and it was not. We did have the judge probate for a special election on there, but we didn't anticipate that that was going to be a draw. So one of the reasons why we had it early voting in room B, which we will not do again, or the Hammonasset room. But when you're having early voting, we don't want to disrupt the rest of the town hall if we don't need to. That was one of the reasons we chose to use room B. It worked. It worked for most of the time. There were a few times where lines backed up. But so for the majority of the time, we didn't have a problem. For I think the last few days is when we noticed
The last few days, especially I believe the last Friday.
Friday.
Was a very particularly busy day. I want to say it was only 2 or 3 times we had the line
Right.
really long. For the most part, it was a steady stream come in, maybe 2 or 3 at most.
Right, for the entire 14
And
days.
then, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
wow.
remarkable.
It was-
Yeah, so as you know, we ended up with 41.5%. And if we look back, I went back for all the municipal, back to 2009.
Municipals, I would think.
In 2009, that was a race between Fillmore McPherson, we had Al and Peter Manco, and that was only 40.27%. So this last year, November was even higher. Just to sort of jump ahead a little bit.
Do you think a big reason for that was because of the early voting? Like to allow people to come in at their convenience?
It's possible. I do. We had about a 35% turnout. 35% was on early voting.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, obviously there's a bunch of things that everybody cared about going on.
Yeah.
So
You know, a special election for judge of probate, I'm sure brought out a number of people. But I do think early voting is a draw. You know,
Just convenient.
it is.
Yeah.
It's the convenience.
I felt like people were very comfortable with the process. I mean, there was not really any complaints. I know we talked about lines, but we've been very good about not having lines. I know other towns it's kind of status quo, right? They just accept the fact that they're gonna have lines. So I know you guys work very hard to not do that with the staffing and also the rooms that you pick and things like that. So I think if you're gonna have a few times where it might be a little longer, you know.
And it really was just a few
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Part of it is our layout by having early voting right next to the Register of Voters office. And for same day registration, we can keep things moving, more easily.
any questions, anybody that needs to come out and get their records taken care of, that's a convenience. So if we're not gonna use that, we have Nassau, so next assignment.
I imagine the average wait time was almost nil, but what was the longest wait time that somebody had to
10
stand?
minutes maybe.
10 to 15 minutes, I think, at most, and that's like the busiest line that we had.
And I think back to Dave's voting at the senior center and it was raining and you're out in the line, you know, so
Yeah.
it used to be kind of accepted that you were gonna have to wait in line that was during big turnout. You know, or like,
Yeah.
presidential races.
Sure.
That, I think it was just assumed that you would have to wait. So, and I guess people choose early voting thinking, oh, I don't have to wait in line, right? So you don't wanna make it too long.
Right.
So,
And again, you know, preparing for this, we didn't anticipate, you know, the numbers that came out. So I think considering how we prepared for it and the amount of people that did come, I think that they did a great job getting people. I also have to say, having everything right here, close to my office, to the town clerk's office, close to the vault, also makes a nice, smooth process. If they need additional help, my staff and I are right here for them. And then at the end of the night, just to get ballots from there right into the vault, and not bringing them from building to building. You know, to transport them like that is also a real benefit.
Okay.
Do you notice a difference weekday versus weekend early voting?
So the first week we had was very steady, and then it dropped off on the weekends.
Okay.
And then it picked up, it picked up the next week. Again, we thought maybe we had like the first burst of everybody who was interested in the next week would be early. But no, it picked right up again. And then the end weekend was also pretty sizable. And I think it was what we heard was a lot of people didn't quite know that they were open. We were open on the weekends
Oh,
for that first weekend.
okay, so maybe we need to advertise that a little stronger.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that actually is a very important point. I think there's amazing advertising. Whether it was social media, there was a lot of like advocacy for it,
Yeah.
and a lot of positive vibes.
Yeah.
Those are out there for sure, but
Those help a lot.
And
There were a lot of
obviously it
people
was
pushing.
being well used, you know,
Yeah.
with the turnout numbers, but yeah, just, you know, just focusing on, hey, you can go Saturday,
But
Sunday.
I think if people had bad experiences, like you would have seen that on social media, and people are like, don't go. Like,
Right.
I think people were so happy with the process.
Oh, it's so,
How it
I've done it several times now, and
Yeah.
it's always been.
I went because Jen went.
It's always been great.
Is there going to be any analysis by the state on the utility of the extended early voting days?
Not that we've heard of. What they're working on right now, the system that we use, it's called CVRS, and EMS. And those systems are now going to be outdated. The first 2 weeks in December between the town clerk's office and the registrar's office, we're going to be attending what's called, total vote. Starting in January, it's going to be a new program.
Okay.
Our total vote is supposed to have more data gathering capabilities, supposed to be cleaner and more inclusive as far as reporting from the new machines and the administrative.
Locally or centrally?
Centrally.
So there has been a lot of discussion though amongst the municipalities, that, and actually I think both CCM as well as our COG, we have talked about advocating to reduce the number of days. I think everybody was stunned when it came out at 14 days.
Yeah.
And then the thought was, okay, do 14 days, but now we're going to be having, no absentee balloting too. So trying to find a balance between the two. So I think the Secretary of State's office is going to be looking at that. Because it is, and a lot of towns like us have advocated that it's a cost burden, it's a space burden. So I love early voting, I want to support it, but do we really need to do, do we need 14 days? To really provide a good service, you know, and I think a lot of people feel like you could kind of compress that a little bit more, maybe do.
For 7 days.
Where you cover weekends, you know.
Or do a weekend,
yeah.
kind of.
A total of 10 days or so.
Yeah,
So-
because the staffing is a challenge.
Where the stated purpose of the early voting is to increase participation, right? That's what we're going. Is there any analysis at any level to see if that's in fact happening? Do we, is it?
I would say
is
it's a
the
big fat
turnout-
yes based on our
Not
town,
this
but
time.
Is the turnout materially different than prior elections of a similar?
So we haven't had a lot of history here, but just in this one, again, we didn't have the Board of Selectmen on it. The turnout, what do we say, in total was 41.5%. Prior to that, in a regular municipal with Board of Selectmen on it, we were looking at 42%. There was at one point, it was up to 48%. So I'm gonna say it's a, you know, people are coming out.
Do you have the 17 municipals?
That was just Tom Babish on it.
Right.
That was a lot.
That was 29.2,
That was
0.02%.
That's, I think the
That's
expectation was
uncontested,
we were
right?
gonna be well, that's.
So that would be the election
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
most like the one
Yeah.
we've just had.
Right.
Yeah, so if you look at that 29% to 41.5%, I mean, that's.
But I also, I would argue, Bruce, it's not just increasing voters, but it's also taking away for voters, because a lot of people had to go through a lot of hoops to get to the polls on election day. Like, you know, if you have a job, you know, you had no flexibility.
Fire,
Yeah.
EMS.
You had no,
really.
you had no flexibility sometimes, and you had to be there on you know, that you might have to take time off of work to go on election day. Now you've got choices, right? I can go on my day.
Right, but we have, or we virtually have no excuse absentee at this point.
Not yet. So not yet. But, you know, even that did go down, you know, from what we've seen in the past. But there's, I don't know if it actually has passed yet, at the legislative
Well,
level.
they haven't done I mean, it passed on the constitutional
Right,
allowance, but they haven't come up with what
And
the
they have
actual,
not.
that's, I'm guessing.
Procedure, yes.
Yeah,
So-
I think they have to come up with the procedure.
Right, our understanding is
Yeah.
still, you know, 6 excuses. So,
Nancy, of the votes cast here in Madison, what percentage were early?
35%,
I'm sorry.
35%.
Oh, so out of the 41.5, 35 were early.
No, 35% of the total
Total
votes.
votes.
Oh, 35% is the total votes, okay.
So I will take that as an action though, Bruce, to find out what studies SOTs are doing now that early voting is going through. Get back next.
Considering that it's an unfunded mandate on the towns, it would be nice to hold their feet to the fire that they're accomplishing their stated goals. Right? I mean, we traded some numbers before the meeting started.
Yeah,
Early voting cost about $7.30 per vote in Madison. That's what it costs to run. I don't know if that's a good deal or a bad deal. I just don't know that, certainly 14 days would seem to be too much for this type of election. And I guess we'll have to watch subsequent elections and see if the turnouts change. In other words, are the people who were going to vote anyways doing it early, right? Scott would have voted either way. He chose to vote early. So his vote isn't inflating the count. Right? Same with
Right,
Jack.
it was more the convenience of
Yeah.
when we could vote.
and
Right.
there are people that, we had spoken to that said, no, I will go vote on election day.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. Yeah.
And then there were a few people that stopped in for absentee ballots, and when they heard about early voting, they said, no, we'll go to early voting.
I think it gets rid of the I forgot syndrome too sometimes, right? Because a lot of people I always hear like, oh, I forgot to vote. Well, you got 2 weeks now. So now you can pop in and don't forget.
I think the convenience is incredible.
Yeah.
I think the 14 days is problematic for small towns. Well, I think they need to rethink that, and I hope they do. I hope they make it a more reasonable time frame. But I still very much like to see it.
Yeah, I had also thought about, the time period should be reduced. But thinking about the amount of people that came to early voting, now if you squeeze that into a smaller period of time,
Yeah, yeah.
it's.
Well, and I think, municipal versus, a statewide or presidential or something like that, also very different. And then primaries.
It's a
That's where
primary.
and so, you have a primary 7 days. And so it's like, we saw that last year, right? I mean, you have to do this whole setup and we had a trickle of people in.
Right, and
so-
now we'll have another one this coming year, 26.
Right.
It's August 11th. And, we don't know what we're gonna have yet, but that would be considered two actual separate elections. If there's a Republican and a Democrat, completely separate, so that's a lot of extra.
So the other thing I want to highlight, so as we talk through the budget, this is going to be part of the conversation, obviously, because we're still figuring out what the right staffing level is, the hours and all that, but that is going to be a discussion about what we should be budgeting for. And I know last year we kind of said we will make whole whatever we need to, right, to make sure that we have the right services in place. So we'll have a budget conversation. The other thing I just want to highlight is we're going to have to think through a little bit like locations, because we have a lot of work going on starting in May at Polson. And so we have to start thinking about, we will have to shift a voting location. And they're looking at different options for that. So Polson,
Which
unfortunately.
confuses people.
Yeah, it does. And that's the hard part about this. So, and so that we need to do that earlier, so we get a lot of information out there. And then we have the issue of the timing of a referendum, which we actually will be able to squeeze in before Polson goes under construction, but we're trying to figure all that out. So that will be something we'll have to talk and update.
And there will be a mailer, so that we'll be planning on budgeting for that as well.
Yeah, a mail to alert people to the location changes. So communication is going to be important about that. It's going to be confusing, unfortunately, but we really don't have a choice because the gym, everything's getting instructions next summer. So Brown is fine, right?
Can we use
there
the high
issue?
school?
We could use Roberts.
Who we use the end?
Well, they're looking at,
Oh.
they have just like different, we've talked about a number of different things, and I think they're gonna have to weigh pluses and minuses. Oh, what did I say?
So we could use.
IT would disapprove.
I would think you're probably right. You need power.
How is staffing? Do we have enough, like, full working
Yeah.
and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, very fortunate.
Yes, we're very fortunate this time around. We actually used a new online sign up system.
Oh,
To get poll workers staffed, and we were filled up for all of our 14 early voting days. The first 2 hours it went live.
Oh, wow.
And it was there like somebody from Madison that always had to be here, and then somebody from the register, like, how did that work? Did you guys always have to have?
So the registrars and the deputies
Just
rotated.
rotating
Right.
out?
And then we would leave for the night and somebody would come back to open up the vaults. So we want to transport and stuff.
Wow. Well, not easy.
Well, I think, well done.
Thank you.
obviously.
Yeah, thank you to
Well done,
everybody.
work,
Yeah,
and-
it's amazing.
and it was another very, seamless, secure election, which is important. And, we'll see what the legislature comes up with next, right? But I know this next one in next November will be.
It'll be larger.
It'll definitely be larger, because those are usually like
We're gonna have-
70% turnout. Probably.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think
Midterms
it is.
or midterms?
Yeah, I think it's like 70, because it's a gubernatorial year, so we'll be in the 70s, I think at least, so.
So we are gonna have to staff up on it.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we have that here, it disrupts this room use and all
Mhm,
sort of
right.
stuff, so we just have to do a lot of planning way ahead of time, and they're on it
We
already.
booked, yes, we're already booked.
Yeah, already got the room booked, so, yeah.
Nice.
So we won't have a home for a period of time, so.
Such is life.
Yeah.
Such is life. We'll meet
So I think that's great. I appreciate the update, and then we'll be talking a lot more about the budgeting process, what, is gonna be needed.
And we've started
So,
coming around. with that.
yeah, great. Okay,
Nice
thank you.
job, guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah.
So the next is an update from the land use department, and I just thought Aaron Mannix here, our town planner, and I thought it was a good opportunity to get an update on some of the projects, approved plans that are in the pipeline, have there been changes? We kind of see a lot of these things going on in town and don't know the status, so I thought Aaron could maybe walk through that. And give us a little bit of a update, so.
Snapshot.
Yep.
Exciting world of land use. Sure. So I just started with a few items that my department has completed this year, which I think are great improvements to how we serve public and make our files and application process a little more accessible. We've wrapped up a 3-year project digitizing all of our paper files and our microfiche. So now they're all digitized. We're going to have those accessible on the website for folks, which saves our administrative staff time from having to either help pull files, saves office space quite a bit, and then we're able to email digital records to folks if they're looking. And historically, we rely very heavily on all of our old applications, legal nonconformities, and things like that. So making these accessible to staff as well has been a great improvement. We've also completed a rollout of our digital permitting software for Planning and Zoning Commission, Inland Wetlands Agency, and Zoning Board of Appeals. So we as staff went back and back entered all of the applications from 2025 so that we'll have complete reporting available at the end of this year. And now folks are able to submit applications. We ask for some patience. We find every now and then there are some glitches, but we're really working our way through that. We're also making updates to our webpage for both our department as well as all the land use related boards and commissions to make those links easier to find and give a little more background on the boards themselves, what they do, and some of their outreach efforts as well. So we're working closely with Maddie on those improvements. We just from a staffing perspective, we did lose our administrative assistant to the finance department last month. So we've had a little gap in our office, but we're hopeful. We have a new hire that will begin on December 1st and get us back up and running. Everybody in their respective position. Another just point point that I'd like to make and ask for the board or the parties to look. We are in desperate need for inland wetlands agency members. We are shorthanded with those commissioners, as well as we have a vacancy for Republican appointment for zoning board of appeals. Is an elected vacancy, so that needs to be filled by the Republicans. But that would really help our functioning for processing permits. Our commission members don't have an opportunity to miss a meeting. We really rely on all of them for every meeting. So that would help take some of the pressure off. Other accomplishments this summer, Peggy touched upon one with Maximo, our intern. We had 2 interns in my department. This summer, the first Mitchell Chernick, as a college student, planning perspective major here. He was funded through Connecticut Association of the American Planning Group. So we received a grant. He started on our multimodal transportation plan. It was one of our objectives in our POCD to begin. He kind of started with our existing conditions, updated our public transportation webpage to include all of the bus routes, all of the transportation options there. He also created all the layers for our GIS mapping, consolidating all of the trails in town. So he pulled together state trails, land trust, shoreline greenway services, greenway trail, and even some of the town parcels, some of the trails that we have at Salt Meadow, Bower Park, and Surf Club.
So you
that
made
were
him,
not
so you made him
mapped.
walk every trail. So what I just said.
I did bring him out to the trail. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
He did receive some field experience in our department, which was enlightening, I think. And also updated our transportation mapping for GIS. He mapped all our bus routes and bus stops, our sidewalks, crosswalks, and bike rack locations. So now we'll have that accessible. That information has been passed along to CAI, who is our GIS consultant, to have those layers added. And that gives us a great starting point for moving forward, identifying where future crosswalks, sidewalk, things like that. And he did play a role in some of the public outreach of our like pet master plan process as well. And our second intern, Maximo Gullah, was this is his second summer with us. This year he worked for the EDC, was funded through their shared boards and commissions account. He went through, worked with the assessor's office, tax department, and just individual outreach to businesses, and created an updated inventory of local Madison businesses, tried to gather relevant information to pass along to the commission. Size of the businesses, he did sort them through the top 100 taxpayers, kind of in scale of these businesses.
Aaron, what coordination was done with like the chamber?
He did work alongside the chamber as well. They had an intern for a portion of the summer, and they met together and
Oh, wow.
guided
As they were walking trails.
him as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So he did a lot of work remotely. Also came in and just kind of spent some time here in Rumay, and gathered that. So that information has been passed along to EDC to help build their business retention program, things like that. So they have a more recent snapshot of the businesses in town. And then once he finished that list, I did pull him back. We were very close last year to getting a silver certification, settled for bronze, and festered for a year that we didn't get the silver. So we completed the process. And unfortunately, fortunately for him, he spent the semester in Italy and wasn't able to attend the award ceremony with us. But I owe a lot of that help to him. And he got a mug. He did a T-shirt.
A silver,
He likes free swag. So that was great. And so our silver certification will run through 2028. And yes, we should plan for future recertifications because
requires some
it's a
staffing.
detail as far as staffing, yes. as you know, we are beginning our comprehensive review and update of the subdivision and zoning codes. We have a consultant on board. Right now, we're doing really just reformatting our existing regulations into our ideal table of contents so that as we digitize these regulations, all of the changes will be able to be tracked from the beginning. So it was a little more of a front load up in the beginning here to reorganize our regs. But I think it will be easier for the commission to take section by section. Not every section is going to be rewritten. They don't need to be. But there are going to be some policy issues. Some of the advisory boards that we work with, tree committee, flood and erosion control, conservation, affordable housing, all of those groups are very interested in providing recommendations and suggestions to the commission. How I think we're going to do that is a smaller working group of the P and Z will be able to meet more regularly with these groups to kind of hash out some suggestions, fine tune things, bring it to the commission so that that's not all done necessarily during the full commission meetings, but we can hear some of that back and forth.
Could you do like liaisons like we do?
There,
like
yes, and I
assign each one to like the 20 commissions.
Actually, some of the smaller groups have already assigned their own kind of working groups
Nice.
who are interested and have the time to
Yeah,
kind of
I
dedicate
bet.
during the day for those. All of them, they'll all be at full commission meetings anyways, but we thought this might be a good way to kind of hash out some of the suggestions. And also as we're anticipating sort of some turnover in the planning and zoning commission. This is Carol's last year to be chair. It can add some continuity through this process as we're switching in leadership as well. I have encouraged all of our boards, the advisory boards, to begin working on recommendations, ask me for sections that are relevant to their charge so that we can start on the committee levels to work on changes if they need examples from other communities. Both myself and our consultants, Taiki, have great resources to kind of pull suggestions. It's not always that we have to reinvent the wheel. And so they're going to work over this winter, get into late winter, early spring, and have some actual drafts ready to bring to the commission. So that's where we stand there. Some of our projects.
And where do sorry, I don't
Yes.
interrupt, but where do we play in that review
So-
process?
That's something I've been in conversations with the chair about, because I do feel that there might be some things that we as a board have some opinions on or strong
Yeah.
recommendations. And so I think we need to start talking about that at the beginning of the year, about some certain areas where we might want to make a recommendation to the commission. Ultimately, it falls under the commission's purview, it's their authority. But I think, this is it's very policy driven. And as we know, zoning has a huge impact on public policy in town. So, so I think that's something that we need to start having those conversations as we there's the advocacy groups for certain committees, but there's this bigger picture, like what are our goals and objectives? We have a strategic plan, and we want to ensure that the commission is meeting those goals and objectives of the strategic plan.
Well, I was even thinking like sort of at a detailed level, like we reviewed the POCD, we reviewed so are we, will we review the changes to the policies before you guys?
Yeah,
vote on
I would think we would have a presentation about what some of the major policy changes are going to be.
Yeah, so by law, the zoning regulations need to be consistent. The commission wearing their planning hat have to find consistency with the plan of conservation and development. And so that's where I think we are at a real benefit, because the update to the POCD and the strategic plan ran concurrently, and there was a lot of cross interaction. And so most all of those policies, I would say all of them, are consistent with each other. So I think those policy issues that you'll see, there's going to be resiliency items, housing items. Those are the big ticket items. I think that would be where we would see some significant changes. We're going to update things like stormwater regulations, some
Well, there's a
general
lot of,
standards, things like
Little
that.
things we've talked about, economic development, like signage. We've had some people complaining about some of our regulations relating to signs. So and things that we know about, and I know those are all on
Yes.
the radar for you because EDC is going to be coming in with their stuff.
Yes.
But I think it'd be good for us to have our little list, that we feel like we want to make sure they're getting addressed, and it'll probably overlap a lot with other commissions, but
Well, it's just an awesome opportunity to align and to
Yeah.
collaborate.
Yeah.
So.
yeah. So
So if you'd like to begin work together.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Early March. And we'll
Yeah,
just,
well, and
yes,
I
but-
did speak to Carol about how that would work in their timeline and stuff, so we will have that opportunity.
So build that.
So there have, yes, so there have not been formal outreach at this point of, letters of, seeking recommendations, things like that. We haven't formulated any of that to go out to boards and commissions at all. So we haven't left you off of any list by any means. But yes, I think that 100% the Board of Selectmen should be advocating for what's in the strategic plan. And it is, yes, the zoning regulations, there is not an approval process through the Board of Selectmen for zoning regulations. That authority falls 100% on the zoning commission. But this is, some of them are technical and some of, regulations that are used, it's a little different process than a broader master planning process.
But
like we've
like
talked
for
about
example,
with
the
some of the other
housing trust,
boards.
what I was saying,
Yeah.
the housing trust fund, for example, right? That
Yes,
would be
is there an
ordinance.
opportunity for?
But should we advocate that there should be fees associated, developer fees or I forget
Right.
the term, you know what I'm saying?
And that's consistent with the affordable housing plan
Right,
that
so those types of
talks
things,
about-
there is a little bit of a crossover.
Well, we've talked
Housing
about, like in the
incentives.
past, like the Board of Finance gives us an advisory note
Yeah,
on something.
right.
Maybe we provide some level of advisory note back
Right.
to the plan, to things that are important to us.
Right.
Could you
Yeah.
consider X, Y, Z?
Yeah, no, I think that's all, it's a good timing to start, beginning of the year, to start us thinking about all those things and then how we weave into their process so that, it's all captured as part of their,
Do the proposed changes from planning and zoning go through any sort of public hearing?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's required. It also is referred to the Regional Planning Commission and so with SCROG, they would go through that process. It does need to be referred to DEP for coastal regulation changes as well. So there's notifications to all of our budding communities.
So one of the things we might be able to do is give them a podium to speak from, maybe call it a town hearing type of thing, right? Because they usually have their hearings in here. But maybe they want to have that hearing in a bigger venue, depending on the topic.
Yeah.
And just making sure that we're getting it out there that these conversations are happening.
And that they're important. Yeah.
Well, they are
Yeah.
important and
Yep, well, I think
deserve attention.
POCD process had that as well, similar, and I think it was well attended,
Yeah,
wasn't
so
it?
too.
There was some public input, so I think, yes, I think there's gonna be opportunities along the way to do that and get people engaged and get feedback.
Yeah, I've seen things where there's just, some of it can be geared towards folks who use the regulations regularly, professionals, surveyors, engineers, architects, things where they have noticed problems. I mean, we have a binder full of small things,
Stuff.
how you interpret things. I mean, there are nuances in the regulations that are challenging.
Yeah.
And are up for interpretation. So there are some things that are technical that just need some finesse. There are also, so we could have specific meetings geared towards those professionals who use them at that level. Also just for regular homeowners, not even necessarily with staff there. I've seen in other communities where they've had the consultant just available, for when were you burned by the regs? What drives you nuts about the regs? No one's here you've got a neutral party who's just listening. So you have opportunity to hear, some things we can change, some things we can't change. But at least it gives that opportunity to
Oh,
be
it
heard.
makes
So we
sense.
haven't done any of that outreach at this point yet.
And then ultimately that helps the board with eliminating some of the gray meeting. So if
Yeah,
the
and-
regs are changed.
Well, and honestly, this is a process that the commission relies heavily on their consultant and staff because they don't use the regulations to the extent that staff does. So they're not familiar with, the
Cover to
90
cover,
page.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, there are also legal updates. There are things that have changed over the years in the statutes that have not been reflected in the regulations. So this will include a full referral to our legal department to go through them. It's a lot of work, having gone through this in wearing a zoning enforcement officer hat. It's a lot of individual going through with the consultant and bringing that information to the commission.
How much is the state, offering changes too? Is there a lot of things that are coming from on high that?
Well, the support of.
We have some.
Right.
We've kept up with some of the changes. There's just general language. Some of it's not just legislative updates, but it's case law as well. So as there's case law every year, sometimes that changes. That changes our ability to regulate signage. We have coastal regulations that have been updated effective as of October 1st of this year. This new housing bill has the potential to change some regulations, not nearly. Parking regulations were already changed back in 23. And when there were accessory apartment changes, there was an opportunity for the town to opt out of some of those changes. Parking was one that we did not opt out of. So we follow the state's parking, which I think our parking regulations, I mean, this is kind of a side, but they're fairly lenient. As they are, we allow the ability to share on public parking as well as adjacent properties. So.
We're just happy to see the S parking lots getting fixed.
But I think,
Whoever's doing that.
yeah. I think though, the bill, because I know there's been a lot of discussion, public discussion about the bill that was just written, I think the governor signed it, right?
It was signed on the 14th.
I think we'll have got some digesting to do, so I think that will be a bigger conversation probably once we understand any specific implications for us.
Yeah, it's a lot, it does directly replace 830J, which is municipalities' requirements for affordable housing plans. Now, communities are required to develop housing growth plans, and there's different timing on that. There's also in this bill a lot of, there are some changes to 8-2, that's the zoning enabling language, regarding middle housing and some of the, summary review, some of these terms that aren't necessarily defined elsewhere. So we'll look into those sections in our commercial as we update our regs in the commercial. But it's sort of more carrot driven of, looking for municipalities to collaborate on a regional basis. They're tending to use the COGS now more for funding opportunities, for planning abilities. So
We'll have some action items about fair recognition.
that's a new one. Yes, that is one I noted.
Basis, we're talking about how that would work with the COG. So there's a lot, I think there's gonna be a lot more coming out with this, because I think they have to get more instructions from the state about how to implement this.
And that's what Scrog said too.
Yeah.
I'm sure at your level as well at Scrog, but that they're gonna do an analysis and start to look. I mean, I've got, it's a nice little light reading to go through. What's your right to bed?
A little surprising reading, but it's definitely, I would just say more digestible, manageable than the original bill.
It is watered down significantly. And there's language for municipalities to kind of opt into transit oriented, kind of along the municipal redevelopment authority kind of sense. If you create these areas, we may have another pot of money available, that kind of incentive for us to look at. And so that's when, as we're looking at our zoning regs and our mapping, how different is that from what our existing regs are and what would that look like? And try to, explain that to the commission and to the public to see what the appetite is for opting into those types of changes.
So projects, just real quick.
Yeah, projects, we'll see.
Meeting for the executive session.
Yeah, we've had
For.
kind of a quiet couple of months as far as application loads. It's just picking up a little bit now for December, which is lovely. Under construction, what we're regularly monitoring in town now, we have the corner of Mill Cottage. It's an 18-unit affordable housing development that was approved a few years ago, went through appeals, and the town came out successful. So that is being built. That has six deed restricted affordable units going in that one.
Let's go by that.
Yes,
On college?
on the corner of Mill Cottage.
Everything is
155 New Road across the street. That's a two-phase residential development totaling 72 units, 8 of which are deed restricted affordable. And that was volunteered by the developer. That was
How
not
many?
required.
How many?
8 affordable at the 80% AMI.
Yeah.
Area median income. 48 Wall Street downtown, that office building is coming along. They'll be likely finishing up soon. I think that's looking good. That's one that has received the economic development tax incentive program as well. EOC Firehouse is under construction. That has both wetlands and P&Z approval. Country School is getting close to finishing up a STEM maintenance building on their property. Moving along, looking to close out this winter. We have various smaller subdivisions that are in differing stages. Shorelands, the old Watrous nursing home. One of those properties is completed, and then the second is under construction now. Stony Lane, which is just north of Barbary Hill Farm. Those 6 units, that was an open space conservation district. Some of those are wrapping up and starting to look for their COs this month. Horse Pond Road, which is the old Daniel Hand House. That is another open space conservation district. Concept there is open spaces clustering into smaller lots, preserving 50% of that area as open space, deeded open space. And so they have some wetlands permits, and they're working on their construction also. That's pretty much it, aside from smaller.
What about the other vacant lot on New Road, the other side?
The medical building?
There are no so there's a site plan approval for a medical office building there. It was my understanding that they had lost a tenant a couple years back or a year and a half ago. And I have not heard of a new tenant going in at that point, at this point. So there are no building permits.
And what about, what's going on next to Hammonasset Liquors, between Hammonasset Liquors and Cohen's?
That is an approval for 2, it was done last year, 2 parcels, basically to round out that development from 20 years ago. It's mixed use buildings, 3 stories, commercial on the first floor, 2 residential floors above that. I want to say there are
Nice
12
picture out there.
units, they're marketing
Yeah.
heavily. They have been going through state health department approval. Right now, they are still going through state office of traffic authority. So they needed OSTA approval because of the number of parking spaces. There's all cross easements across those properties.
But as far as you know, it's still happening? It's still happening?
Yes, I believe just last week they were getting additional information to OSTA. It was previously approved with the state.
Okay.
They had asked for some minor modifications, but the developer has been working on construction drawings. You just can't by law apply for any building permits or obtain any building permits until the state traffic authority has issued.
Well,
There-
Karen, I wanted to ask you about some of the other undeveloped, 2 marina properties. And there's another one at Cottage and Mill on the other corner.
There Oh,
That's the one that's.
the cottage and the cottage and mill on the west side is the affordable housing development. On the east end of Cottage, Marina Landing, that's over by the ice house.
Yeah.
That was approved several years ago. It's a valid, because of all of the extensions with COVID, that's a valid approval still. It changed hands, did sell this past year, but I have not had any contact with the new property owners.
Oh, it did? Had no sign.
But not,
Did
not
sell.
with the property owner that we thought.
Just going back to the,
Correct.
Yeah.
to the south side empty lot
Yes.
on new. Can we ask that that blue tarp material on the fence be taken off?
The screen, the blue
The
brightness.
visual screen, yeah, there's the fence, the chain link fence. I
Just such a
they wouldn't
nice-
say that up, but
Yeah,
but
it's
the
loud.
but the
And
blue is just a little.
especially you get off the highway, that's like, all you see.
We could ask them nicely. I'm not sure if we have the authority to make them remove it, but we can ask them. There have been times that it's come out.
Aaron, what's the status of the, I call it the other marina at
On
East
the
River
west end.
One?
That is also still a valid building permit, or not a building permit, a planning and zoning commission approval for that marina property. The docks have gone in, they went in a good year ago at least. The property owner lost his funding and is looking to secure funding to do that. I talked to him just a month or so ago. But there's nothing new on that.
And then what about Route 1, the restaurant that got torn down? It's gonna be a physical therapy office.
Elizabeth's?
Yeah.
That is on the market as
Okay.
well. It was approved as a restaurant first, and then they went back for a modification for a physical therapy office. It was first it was 2 residential units above and a restaurant on the first floor. Then they modified the special exception to just be physical therapy office. So that's the current approval. If a different proposal came through and wanted to purchase that, they'd have to go back to the commission to modify that approval. I haven't heard anything of any new potential buyers on that.
So that's there at the very west end of Cottage. What's going in there?
There, we have no applications on that.
So land's being cleared?
There have been test pits out on the property.
Oh, maybe.
So there might have been some site clearing for test pits.
Thank you.
Sure. But no active applications. That's a commercially, well, it's a DEP property on the corner and then inset that's all commercially zoned in there. Yeah. The Dowlers.
I have a question. There's a property on Route 80 that's for sale now. There's a couple be zoned up there. It looks like it had like a big concrete pad on it and just like a chain link fence.
Oh, that's
Well,
the,
there
where
was one
the
that-
tower was up. That was where that random boat was sitting up there.
Power substation
Somebody dumped a
there.
boat there, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's an adjacent parcel next door we've gotten a lot of calls on. It's very wet. It's just west of Hickory.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
I'm assuming
you know,
I've seen-
it's funny because I haven't updated the board. This is cross one about the train station. I was just thinking about that because that's going to public hearing in February. So just as an aside. We're moving forward with the second platform.
Oh,
And we had to go through that process of getting wetlands offset.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk about that in December, because we have to figure out what approvals would be needed for all that, right? For the wetlands offset. So,
It's all DEP.
huh?
It's all DEP.
No, but it's town property.
Oh,
So, yeah.
for,
Right, because we have to basically offer up a wetlands restoration, right? So we've identified 2 parcels in town. They did the testing, the one on Horse Pond and the one by
on Cops Road.
on
So-
Cops Road, and they came back and said they will qualify. So the state now it's, I think, 75% along the design phase, so there's gonna be a public hearing in February, and construction is expected for 2027 for the second platform. So we are gonna, I just was thinking about this because I was like, we do need to start teeing up that conversation about the,
Easements
yeah,
for DOT.
Yeah.
Because DOT is responsible for maintaining those mitigation sites.
yeah. So somehow we have to give them access and allow this to occur on town property. And I don't know, we need to think about approval process and stuff like that. We haven't really talked about that because it kind of just was there. But the exciting thing is that the transition is happening.
Yeah, we need to
I
start
mean, it's
letting
been there
people know.
forever, but it kind of got caught up in some of the delays. I was worried we were gonna lose the funding because of all the federal reductions, but they're moving forward. So I think it's scheduled February, the public hearing.
I thought that was a public information.
For public information session, yeah, on the design.
For DOT
yeah,
to come
Right,
to
it's gonna be them
Madison.
doing it to Madison, but I'm like, we need to start talking about this. And so maybe we target like in December or early January, talking through what our process would be. with
Yeah,
this.
I think they need to come up with a design plan for both properties so we could see the extent of
Yeah,
the area that they're looking to.
yeah, because they said it would all qualify, they would need both parcels to do the wetlands offsite.
Yes.
So, and this is because we're gonna be taking wetlands when they do the second platform, right? So there's gonna be taking some of the wetlands, so we need to like make up for that, and it's 1 to 3, right, for every.
It's DEP, the need for mitigation, creating, like for like wetlands is through DEP. Army Corps will allow for, a fee in lieu, and that's what they're doing for
Yeah.
Army Corps, but DEP prefers the,
The.
so it's this
yeah.
scrub shrub wetland is the.
So we went through a lot of
General.
different site options. There was 2, it kind of got narrowed down to, and then they did test pits and they said that they would be acceptable for that. So we will, more to come. I just, when I was like, oh, wait, because Jeannie was scheduling, they came a couple weeks ago and said they wanted to get the public information session scheduled for February. So anyways, another update. So I think that if everybody's good, do we want to go to the last item on our agenda? And I think Aaron, you want to stay to this because some of it relates to land use, but the
Sure. Want to sneak the citizens' comments in?
yes,
there?
we need to do citizens comments. So there are any citizens comments in the room, I assume? No? Are there any hands raised? We're asking for citizens comments now because the end of the meeting, we will just be going right to adjournment because we're going to executive session.
There are none online.
Okay. Well, that makes it easy. So I guess with that, I will close out citizens' comments, and then I'd like to make a motion to move an executive session and invite into executive session Aaron Mannix and our town council, Carrie Olson, and Jeannie Stevens. So, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
For the public's benefit, the webinar is now going to be shut down. If anybody tries to get on, they won't be able to, and then we'll just be adjourning the meeting when we executive session. So, all right, thank you guys. Yeah, you can shut the door. Thank you. No objection. This meeting is adjourned. So.
Cool.
Adios.
We don't have to go back on camera, do the adjournment thing?